Morning, everybody. Dun, dun, dun. Cool. Here we go. So day 14, 2 weeks in. Congratulations. If you've never meditated consistently for this amount of time, awesome job. I hope it's giving you something or surprising you. What we're going to get into for the next 4 days is just a deeper breaking down, but more a deeper breaking down of this concept of flow state, a concept that describes flow state, summarized in the acronym STIR. STER, STIR. And just knowing the acronym and therefore knowing the qualities of flow will more than likely make the experience of flow more accessible to you because you will be aware of it as it arises. And that awareness matters. I always use the example or think of the scenario of hiking through the forest. If you know what these sorts of flowers are, if you know what the pollinators that are attracted to these flowers are, that's information that enlivens and details that little walk through this particular part of the forest, and you can leverage that. There's information in that. And so the information of STIR, these words, selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, richness, when you feel them arising, and you can observe them as they arise. It doesn't have to be a disruption to observe your meditative experience as it manifests. Um, it tells you that you're doing it, you're practicing correctly. And back to sort of the conditions necessary for flow, feedback. You have to know when you're doing it right. You have to know when you're sort of doing it wrong. So if you're thinking a lot about yourself, you're doing it, you're more than likely not entering a flow state. If you're worried about what time it is for the entire duration of your practice, you're probably not entering flow state. If it feels like it's hard work, you're probably not entering flow state. If there's no sense of satisfaction coming intrinsically from the process, you're probably not in flow state. And then we have to fall back into, okay, what are we doing? Let me play the game correctly. Back to this definition. Let me just pay attention to the moment as it arises on purpose, non-judgmentally. Back and forth, back and forth. What I wanted to talk about today before we sort of observe this acronym in real time is the last condition necessary to enter flow. I would say it's probably the most important condition, and we can really feel it through a Hindu parable about two types of practitioners: the ascetic and the devotional bhakti yogi. And so Krishna, right? So God of one of many gods of Hinduism, but one of the main sort of one of the main gods in the sense of how many followers this god has. Krishna, avatar of Vishnu, is walking through the hills of India, and he comes across two practitioners at two different times: an ascetic, so someone who renounces all pleasure, renounces all relationships, renounces, because that sort of practitioner believes it's through the renouncing that they really touch their power and their soul, and in that achieve nirvana. The second practitioner is a devotional bhakti yogi who just practices and touches soul by dancing and celebrating and being grateful for life and enjoying the play of what it means to be alive. And so Krishna is walking, down the hills, through the hills, and he comes across the ascetic, and the ascetic asks, "How many lives do I have? Hello, Krishna, how many lives do I have before I reach my goal?" And Krishna says, "You have around 8 lives left." And the ascetic, so driven by goals, sort of pouts, I wanted it this life. I haven't eaten in years. I feel like I deserve this enlightenment. I can't believe I have 8 more lives of this before I reach this goal. Krishna says, "It is what it is. Off I go." Krishna keeps walking down the path, sees the bhakti yogi dancing, celebrating. "Hello, Krishna. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. I'm enjoying your creation. I'm enjoying this reality. By the way," the bhakti yogi asks, "how many lives do I have left? Because I also am curious about nirvana." And Krishna looks around and says, "About as many lives as there are leaves on this tree. Many, many more lives." And the bhakti yogi smiles. "So it is. because the Bhakti yogi celebrates the experience and the process. And so this is sort of the idea. When you can enter, when you can sort of imbue or embody this bhakti mentality, there is no goal. The experience itself is the goal, the act of devotion, the act of singing, the act of chanting, the act of being grateful for what is the goal. So it doesn't matter if there are a trillion more lifetimes, it's only a trillion more lifetimes in the joy, in the achievement of, in this sense, yoga. But for us in mindfulness, it is the joy of being with the moment. When you are sitting, when you are feeling your judgment or your impatience or your worry, as long as you understand that that's part of the moment, and the whole point is to essentially devote yourself, like the yogi to Krishna, devote yourself to the now. That the now is the most important thing that exists in all of time, in all of space, because it is what you have. It is what is arising. It is not the thought of the future. It is not the thought of the past. It is what is true. And to sit there and listen to it and feel it without shaping it mentally or physically, right? That is a great honor. And in that, you start to see what the now truly is. Something worth being grateful for. Something you can let go within because it's operating on its own. Something you can be patient with. The whole point is you must find joy in the experience, which we have already done. But this is now we're understanding this willingness to find joy intrinsically through the act itself is a huge condition in entering flow. Hence why, probably subconsciously, Thich Nhat Hanh is always pushing, find joy here, find joy here. This is the thing you want to be happy for. That helps, again, all of us enter this really interesting state of mind. Cool. All right, let's do this. Your practice, comfortable position, eyes open, eyes closed, laying down. Whatever it is. And so if this is still difficult for you, it is because you have judgments and expectations. You're a little too goal-driven. And all of us still have those fragments of drive, those fragments of judgment in our minds. None of us have a purely original mind. Hence practice. And so in the noticing and the acknowledging of judgment within the moment, it neutralizes it, brings it to light, positions it alongside everything else. The sound of your breath, the feel of your body, the temperature in the air. And so through the acknowledgement of judgment, which exists in all of us, now just be here. Now just listen. Here we are again, listening to the now, a new now, but the now nonetheless. And in this listening and feeling undisrupted and open, we build personal intimacy with this experience. Slow the breath. 5 minutes on your own to warm up into what is your practice at this point. And so again, the familiar instruction: strike the bell of joy. And feel in that moment of choosing to recognize joy, the practice is achieved. The game is being won. A certain momentum of presence starts to develop because you want to be here, because it's joyous. Because the moment is smiling at you. And finally, in our non-judgment, we realize that to exist is innately intimate. Strike the bell of joy. Slow breath. It's truly just a game of noticing and then remembering to notice again. Find joy in the forgetting of presence, because that is the nature of the now. Everything changes, including our mindfulness. Alongside stir, there are three main effects of flow. See if you can feel them in your psyche. The first is a sense of competence, that problems don't seem as insurmountable. And when we are competent or feel competent, in general, we have trust in chaos. We trust the future is unknowable, but manageable. And so if you feel that, that is evidence of a neurological shift. The second is euphoria, that your body actually feels better, lighter, more energized, more awake, literally euphoric, relaxed, soothed. This is also evidence of shift. And then the last is intimacy. That if I prompt you to think of the people you love, you feel that connection more powerfully. If you think about your relationship to the now, you feel it viscerally. This is evidence of shift. So let's take 3 more hyper-mindful breaths. End your practice powerfully, confidently. And with every breath, feel that the breath itself is the achievement. That you're here to be here. Not to gain access to some future experience or ideal. You're here to be here. And so now 1 life or 1,000 lives, if you have to do this for 1 minute or 1,000 more minutes, it doesn't matter, because the experience itself is why you come. All right, inhale, open your eyes.